Time Warner Cable is pleased to be an underwriting sponsor for Carolina Week.
Coming up on the March 26th edition of Carolina Week, Carolina students walk through the day and night to raise money to fight cancer.
About 20 local families must relocate after owners decide to close the campground they call home.
In sports, the Heels ran out of gas against Georgetown on Sunday, but was this the last time we'll see Brandon Wright and Tyler Hansbrough in Carolina Blue?
Weathercaster Mallory Nichols is here with your Carolina Week 4-day forecast.
All that and people who take fundraising to the extreme. Carolina Week starts right now.
From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Hello and welcome to the Monday edition of Carolina Week. I'm Alex Villarreal.
And I'm Adam Rue. Thanks for joining us. While much of the campus was saddened by Carolina's loss in the NCAA tournament, another loss has put that game into perspective. Jason Ray was a senior member of the cheerleading squad who has worn the Ramses mascot costume for 3 years. An SUV hit him late Friday afternoon while he was walking near the team hotel in New Jersey. He's been in critical condition since then and died at 8:38 this morning. Police haven't charged the driver, who immediately got out of his vehicle to help Ray. Jason Kendall Ray was a business major and religion minor from Concord, North Carolina. UNC Director of Athletics Dick Bedour had this to say about Ray. Jason may have performed in the anonymity that comes with playing the mascot, but his life has an overt and lasting impact on the people whose lives he's touched. You can find out how to make donations to the Jason Kendall Ray Memorial Fund on our website, carolinaweek.org.
Our thoughts are with Ray's family. A Hillsborough campground that's home to some of Orange County's poorest families will close May 1st, leaving its residents wondering where to turn. When Hurricane Katrina destroyed their Mississippi home, Nancy Smith and her family moved into a donated trailer at the Daniel Boone Campground.
Everybody was so helpful. I mean, this is a wonderful place to live.
But Smith's newfound happiness has a deadline. On March 14th, the Southern Country Inn, which owns the campground, sent residents letters informing them the campground is closing.
It's not fair that we keep just getting bounced out. My kids just keep getting pushed around.
The Freeland family owns the land and plans to redevelop it into a shopping center and new homes. When word got out, some campground residents got out too. I'm standing in this empty lot abandoned by its owners when they heard their campground might be closing. Now it's official and residents in these homes behind me will be forced to do the same by May 1st.
Can I have your rock?
Residents of the mobile home park alongside the campground worry they might be next.
Who's going to put townhomes and condos and shopping centers right here and leave us alone? I don't see that.
Management says the inn can no longer afford the campground without the rent for the emptied lots. But at $365 a month, rent at the campground is the only rent Smith can afford. And she and her family are left to struggle with the loss of their home for the second time in 2 years.
I honestly don't know what we're going to do. I have no idea.
The Southern Country Inn has offered campground residents rooms at the inn for a discounted rate, but they'll still cost more than their rent at the campground.
John Edwards says he'll continue to campaign for the White House despite his wife's resurgence of breast cancer. But he discourages sympathy votes. In an interview during the weekend, he said sympathy voting would be an enormous mistake. The vote for the presidency is far too important, he said, for any of those things to influence it.
Some UNC students might have sore feet today after they spent the weekend doing a whole lot of walking. The Relay for Life started Friday at 6 p.m. and lasted until 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Volunteers spent the entire 20 hours walking laps around Fetzer Field to support cancer patients. Live music helped energize some people, while younger volunteers spent time playing baseball. In between shifts on the track, walkers were able to relax at team campsites inside the Eddie Smith Fieldhouse. This year's relay raised more than $211,000 for the American Cancer Society. That's well above last year's net of $186,000. More than 1,500 people registered for the event, but organizers say about 2,000 actually showed up.
Many people blame the current poverty problem on the low minimum wage in our country, but current legislation might change all this. Reporter Carla Babb is in the studio with details. Carla?
Adam, in January, our local House representatives told Carolina Week about a minimum wage increase they proposed in the Democrats' 100-hour agenda. Now, the Senate has agreed to support minimum wage legislation. Students and teachers at Chapel Hill may not worry about current legislation on Capitol Hill. But for workers like these, last week's compromise in the Senate gives them a reason to penny pinch a little less. The Senate's compromise on minimum wage legislation raised the national amount from $5.15 to $7.25 during a 2-year span. Representative Bob Etheridge says that Congress should have increased the wage long ago, and this delay has made life difficult for many Americans.
When you can't make a living wage on a minimum wage, there's a problem with minimum wage.
Experts say the wage increase will only affect a small percentage of American voters, but NC State University political science professor Stephen Green says every little bit helps.
More likely than not, it would provide at least a small, net benefit in the sense that for those people who are trying to make a living and to maybe even support a family on that kind of wage, that it will make a significant difference in their lives.
The main holdup in the legislation came when Senate Republicans wanted $8 billion in tax relief for small business workers. They claimed businesses would have to fire some of their employees without this relief. Senator Elizabeth Dole supports the tax breaks.
That way our small businesses can provide the increase but not have to let people go who are the least skilled and who are the most vulnerable in our marketplace today.
Now the Senate and House must meet in a joint committee to iron out the differences between their bills. But Adam, all of our North Carolina senators tell me they're confident the two bodies will reach compromise within the next 2 months.
Carla Babb reporting from the studio. Thanks, Carla.
When you work hard for something, it usually means more when you finally achieve it. That's the case for dozens of new fraternity brothers.
Joining a fraternity means nothing, but when you can really work for it, sweat for it, curse it, and love it, as well as the men in it, you have something.
Now that the long hours of studying fraternity history and getting to know senior members are finished, these men work alongside brothers to improve their houses. Newly initiated fraternity brother Brian McLean says it's a relief to be done with pledging.
It's a relief to finally be initiated. It feels good to be one of the brothers. I mean, pledging was a sacrifice, but it's all worth it in the end.
UNC's 22 IFC fraternities initiated more than 100 men total. Well, many students got a natural tan in the sun during spring break.
But others prefer the faster route and use tanning beds. When we come back, we'll tell you more about the method that might be bad for your health.